Is there any way it's that long lens? You peek in with that long lens. Is there any way?
Would you be able to rotate this a little bit so that it's
I'm live right now.
Okay. Then I'll just, how about here?
Try your long lens. That's the one. That's good.
Help them to sit down and find their seats. Good morning, folks. Could you please find your seats because we're about to start. This is the phenomenal form of 2025. Welcome all. Welcome to all who have joined us today. Trustees, parents, families, and friends. Welcome all. I would like to extend a warm welcome to our sixth headmaster, Bill Polk, a graduate of the form of 1958. We begin this segment of our Prize Day ceremony by introducing our current board president, Ben Pine, a graduate of the form of 1977, and a parent of two sons who know this circle very well. Graduates Groton of the form of 2012 and Britain of the form of 2015. Mr. Pine assumed his duties as president of the board in 2020. Mr. Pine, the podium is yours.
Thank you. Headmaster, thank you. Good morning. Can we try that again? Good morning. Good morning. There we go. I learned that from the headmaster. On behalf of my fellow trustees, I want to welcome all of you here this morning and add a special congratulations to each of you in the form of 2025. I can feel some excitement in this tent, the excitement that is shared by everyone here, but no more than your parents, families, and friends who have been there for you over these years and who are so proud of you right now. I think now would be a fantastic time to stand up, turn around, and thank your parents and everyone who have supported you through your journey at Groton. And while you are up, I think it would also be a fantastic time to thank the Groton School faculty and staff, including the Macubelas, who were always... You can sit down. There is so much that I could talk about on how Groton prepared me for life. But today I'm just going to focus on two things: the power of small gestures and how your character, who you really are, can have far larger impacts on you and others than you think. When I was your age, and yes, I was your age once, I always assumed that big gestures, impressive titles, important jobs were the only way to have an impact and to make a difference. While there is a certain truth that the bigger the platform, the bigger the potential impact, it doesn't always start that way or even end up that way. Who you are, how you live your lives, interact with others, even in the smallest ways, can have an outsized impact. I share two stories to illustrate, and I promise only two. The first occurred in very late 1999. I was leading one of the largest distribution teams of the Walt Disney Company. It was a few days before Christmas, and there was one deal with a cable company that could just not get done. Yes, in the 1990s, cable companies were a thing. On December 22nd, the team came to me and told me that it was impossible to do a deal with this company. The founder and CEO was impossible to deal with. So I offered to take it on and let everyone else head off for the holiday break. I will never forget the morning of December 23rd. My wife Janet and I were literally moving into a New York apartment from Los Angeles. Boxes everywhere. Janet was taking care of our two young sons. Complete chaos. Dealing with a difficult situation with a difficult negotiator was really not first on my list. It's the last thing I wanted to do. But I did head the group, and it was ultimately my responsibility. Instead of setting up a formal negotiation, which is what everybody recommended, I decided to make a simple phone call to this difficult person. He never expected a phone call from me, the head of the group. He assumed we, Disney, didn't care and were fine to lose their small piece of business. He was actually taken aback when frankly, and at the end of the conversation, incredibly appreciative that I made the effort. I think we ended up speaking for close to an hour. By late morning, we had reached a tentative deal and signed agreements by the next day, Christmas Eve. To this day, he credits that simple gesture, a phone call, a reaching out, not some formal across-the-table sit-down, but a phone call, with generating enough trust and goodwill to get something done. Disney and his company went on to have a great relationship for many years, and as sometimes happens, his company grew. So that simple gesture multiplied in value many times over in the ensuing years. Through that experience, I learned that one should never underestimate the potential and power of even the smallest gesture. Making an effort, no matter how small it may seem at the time, no matter how much you prefer not to do it, and believe me, I did not want to do it that day, and no matter how little difference you think it might make, can have an impact. In the words of the legendary UCLA basketball coach John Wooden, it's the little details that are vital. Little things make big things happen. The second story I want to share takes place at Birla House in New Delhi, India, where Mahatma Gandhi spent the last 144 days of his life. I should clarify that it is not Birla House itself that I want to focus on, but the room where Gandhi lived and worked. This room is probably 8 by 10, maybe even a little smaller than a cubicle. Simple white walls, a mattress on the floor, a small portable desk for correspondence, a spinning wheel, a small table, no chair. About as basic as you can get. At that point in my life, when I first visited the room, I had been fortunate to be in some large and impressive offices of powerful people, been in our Congress, even in the White House. So I was amazed to realize that Gandhi did all he did to impact the 20th century and change the course of India from so little. The room, though, spoke volumes about his character and who he was. He may have been a small man in physical stature, but the room spoke of a huge man with great humility, heart, spirit, intellect, and conviction. I keep a picture of that room on my iPhone to remind me that he didn't need the trappings of a corner office or of power to do what he did. He just needed himself. When I get too full of myself or overwhelmed sometimes, that image grounds me and reminds me about what really is important and the potential of each of us. I'd like to finish with two favorite quotes. The first by Theodore Roosevelt, who said, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." And the second, another from the famous Coach Wooden, "Be more concerned with your character and your reputation, because your character is what you really are, while your reputation is merely what others think you are." So I hope these two stories and quotes give you something to think about in the coming days. At least for me, and I hope for you, my experience at Groton helped me to develop a better understanding of who I was and build my character in ways that I could have never imagined. I credit that phone call back in 1999 to my years here and learning the importance of always making an effort, no matter how small, difficult, or challenging. Gandhi's small, simple room is a reminder of how little any of us need to make a difference. Who we really are inside is what counts. So congratulations to all of you in the form of 2025. Go well and the very, very best in all that you do. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to do something that is not scripted. And I'm going to ask everyone here, except for the phenomenal form of 2025, to stand for the form of 2025. Thank you. They know why. We know why. In January, we started with 83 of them, and today, 83 of them are graduating. At the last parlor of 2025 at the Headmaster's house, as I shook the hand of every senior who attended, I greeted this phenomenal form of 2025 with a simple question. It was, is this it? And most of them answered, this is it. As the song goes, it is well with my soul. And I hope it is well with yours too. Turning my attention to those who have come to celebrate with you, I thank you for raising such wonderful children. Raising teenagers is no easy task. My colleagues and I can attest to that. But you enabled us to do our jobs best way we can. That's why we're so proud of this form. They were not mean to each other. It was the first form I ever used the word, I love you too. Because they loved each other. When schools were banning cell phones, and I was asked to do the same, and I have to say I was even asked by some trustees whether I had seen these articles, I told them that at Groton, rather than banning, we buy in. And our seniors and the seniors before them believe in buying in. They even had a saying, hang up and hang out. And they really bought into it. So I have to state that I too had my phone confiscated by a senior prefect. And I was headed to New York, and I begged her. And she said to me, don't do it again. And I also made a big mistake of confiscating Mrs. Makubella's cell phone. And she said, I'm speaking to your grandchildren. And I said, it does not matter. It's the schoolhouse. I had to buy her dinner afterwards. I may have gone too far. So, the phenomenal form of 2025 will no longer say, through their seniors, welcome to roll call in unison. They just did this with so much class. In answering the question, is this it? One of your fellow graduates, Aman Khanna, said, this it is. It now gives me great pleasure to first say happy birthday and introduce the sixth form class speaker, Max Zimmerfan.
Mr. Macabella, I thought I was supposed to be playing piano today. Anyone see the piano? Sorry for my confusion. The last time I was on the stage was 4 years ago, and I didn't play piano that time either. Believe it or not, I was dancing. In fact, our entire second form was dancing. That spring, Mrs. Macabella decided to teach us the Jerusalema, maybe because it was COVID and we needed some entertainment for otherwise a drastically different year. I think it went something like this. You can ask Devin Gura for a better demonstration. But we will have plenty of time for music and dancing after this. Without further ado, Mr. and Mrs. Macabella, Dr. Brinkley, Mr. Pine, trustees, faculty, staff, and fellow Grotonians, thank you all for gathering here today to celebrate a truly momentous occasion, my birthday. And prize day, of course. But it's a birthday for every one of us in the form of 2025. A new generation of Grotonians are reborn today, ready to take on the world. Today is no ordinary day, and 2025 is no ordinary year. So extraordinary, in fact, that I honored it with a speech exactly 2,025 words long. It's the sum of the first 9 natural numbers. That's 1 cubed plus 2 cubed, all the way to 9 cubed. And it's also a perfect square, 45 squared. For context, the first 8 natural numbers squared was the year 1296. And the last year that was a perfect square was 1936. I have no idea off the top of my head what happened in the year 1926. But the most relevant fact I found was the self-proclaimed king of Myanmar fell off his war elephant. 1936, on the other hand, was a historic year for Groton for 2 reasons. First, FDR passed the Social Security Act, providing retirement pensions for millions of Americans at the height of the Great Depression and laying the groundwork for social welfare in America. And second, perhaps even more historic, Senora Connor started teaching at Groton. I'm just kidding. Senor has only been here a mere 44 years. And in that time, he has amassed a wealth of knowledge and built relationships that serve generations of Grotonians on the circle to this day. As a 6th former on the varsity tennis team, a few weeks ago, Senor gave me a parting gift, a book written by 2 Groton Form of 2011 alumni and varsity tennis captains, Ken Bellato and Ted Lenhart. In their book, they profiled 24 notable Groton alumni and used their commonalities to piece together what makes the Groton education special. Fun fact, Dr. Brinkley has actually written a book about one of them, Secretary of State under the Truman administration, Dean Acheson. And what Ken and Ted found about Groton graduates as a whole is the namesake of their book, Divine Fire. Energetic, optimistic, and confident, Groton graduates pursue their careers and policies on behalf of the nation, emboldened by a divine fire that seems to be burning in their breasts. They quote John Alsop, Form of 1933, in the book, who said that Groton instills this divine fire in the formative years, training us to extend ourselves to the utmost. I am proud to say today, 125 years after FDR's graduation, this very divine fire lives on in the phenomenal form of 2025. It was a warm spring evening, and the 5th formers in Williams' dorm were a little too full of energy from an otherwise uneventful day. So, Varun Gite and Carter Lightburn approached me with an idea. We could fill empty trash bins with water and pour them on each other to cool off. But by each other, they meant just an unsuspecting Armand Khanna walking down the stairs. Sounds like a pretty good idea, right? I thought so too. Varun filled the trash bin, and I took the bin and began chasing Armand down the stairs. And as I saw him bounding down, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be really funny if I just poured the water right now as he was heading down? An intrusive thought, if you will. So, in my ecstatic giddiness, I poured the water out of the trash bin, drenching Armand from head to toe, splashing the wooden plaque underneath the stairs that read, FDR, Form of 1900, lived here, and spilling the rest down the staircase. You'll never guess who was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, watching this entire spectacle unfold. Our very own dorm head, Dr. Williams. So it came as no surprise later that night. Dr. Williams gathered us in the living room of his apartment. We sat in a semicircle facing him, and he went around asking, completely stone-faced, "Would you say this is horseplay?" We couldn't hold it in and began laughing. And he retorted with something even funnier. "You know what? This is funny. This is ridiculous." But Varun, Carter, and Armand didn't blame the whole incident on me. Instead, they protected me by taking some responsibility. We were within the prisoner's dilemma, except only one prisoner had committed the crime. Or, like Teddy Roosevelt's grandsons, Kermit and Archie, Grotonians who joined the CIA and had to covertly operate in the Middle East in the 1950s. You may be asking yourself, what does this have to do with the divine fire? Isn't this more like mundane water? I bring up this story not to exemplify ourselves, but Dr. Williams. Even though we were at times rambunctious in the dorm last year, especially me, Dr. Williams saw that we were striving to change. He went beyond qui servire est regnare. He is an example of qui concedere est regnare, for whom to forgive is to rule. He also gave Carter and me the opportunity to redeem ourselves this past year as a Williams dorm prefect. Perhaps the spark we have drawn from Dr. Williams' leadership was just enough to quench the torrent of water, and the amount of trouble we have prevented this year offsets the trouble we caused last year. Divine fire grows in our form every time we learn from our mistakes and move forward. Once we've acquired this flame for ourselves, we've also learned to share it with one another. In the middle of this past January's winter blues, Eliza Kingsland sent a text to our group chat. "Form snow fight?" And within half an hour, the form of 2025 was mobilized on the circle, ready for action. We launched ourselves down the hill by the Coco, first solo, then in bobsled teams of 3 or 4. And the real engineering began when a few of us had the brilliant idea to build a ramp. And of course, Angus Miller, Angus Frew, Matt Scheibel, and Zach Baker decided to load up the sled and full send Jacques down. And best believe he was flying like Santa Claus. Before long, what started as a few playful snowball tosses quickly escalated into an all-out snow onslaught. Snowballs flew, sleds became shields, and we were wrestling on the ground, the powder completely coating us. Lola Huang challenged me to a fight, so I had to put her in her place, dropping her quickly. Then Harry Spence and I had a better idea. Why use so much of our self-generated force when we could enlist the help of gravity? We developed the tabletop move. One of us kneels behind an unsuspecting victim as the table, and the other would push them, and gravity did the rest. Others caught on quickly, though, and I lost track of how many times that innovation flipped back on myself. To many of you in the form of 2025, this may have been an average night, but that night is my favorite picture of our form's divine fire. There's something uniquely ours, uniquely spontaneous, collective, and warm, about 80 teenagers abandoning all their stress and worry to spend a night frolicking in the snow. And it will be the kind of memory, for me, that will make me smile years later, not because of what we did, but because of how we chose to be together in that moment. Last weekend, as I was walking past the headmaster's house, I meandered into the midst of a sight to behold. Picturesque small petals of cherry blossoms in their front lawn, floating down all around me, shimmering in the light. My first thought was not about the scene's beauty, nor its surrealness, but rather, as my peers in my global science fictions class with Dr. Agbidian theorized last winter, if we indeed lived in a simulation, the simulation has pretty good graphics. But perhaps it is the very fact that our campus is so beautiful that disproves this theory of simulation. We are incredibly privileged to live on a campus where everything is sublime. We are immersed in nature so thoroughly that we sometimes forget to appreciate it. Walking down to the Nash on senior skip day after playing hours of spikeball with Kieran, Danny, Kristen, Asante, and Matt Scheibel, the rays of light penetrating through the canopy of the forest absolutely stupefied me. At that moment, I finally understood why Margaret Knebb cares so much about sustainability. It's so hard to comprehend sometimes that this place is real. Not only the nature, but the people here. Where else in the world do you find a collection of high schoolers with such diverse backgrounds who are so uniquely positioned to succeed in so many fields? Trip White is a classic scholar, but nothing is as classic as his backhand down the line. Laurie Dubois is amiable, but her boat is zooming past you on the water without any care for your feelings. Brenda Lee and Anna Duggan can hit any note while singing, and Matt Sinellis can hit any on the violin. Dozafar Singh can network with any parent. Audrey and Chloe can do any dance pose or TikTok. And beneath these abilities, there lies an intellect and burning curiosity second to none. Unfortunately, the world is not Groton. Ideas are not freely discussed in many places. The grass is not so green. And no matter how much lower schoolers complain about 654, Groton remains a much, much more equitable place than almost anywhere in the world. Mr. Macabella said at Baccalaureate on Friday that Groton lets us start on third base, and we should be proud. But now that you've seen what third base looks like, the sublime beauty of all of it, can you imagine the beauty of home plate? Not only that, once we reach home, what about the others? That's where our divine fire comes in. Divine fire allows us to reach home plate. Then, in the next inning, when runners on first and second, take them home as well by hitting a home run. Each one of us holds a piece of the flame that we will carry onward. Alex Newmans presents himself in his clarinet performance, orchestrating prowess, and his big warm hugs. Kaiyu Yang and Liding Jangs and their powerful tennis strokes and incredible discipline. In fact, to repeat John Alsop, the very act of surviving our years at Groton leaves us with this unquenchable fire to change the world. So, to the phenomenal forum of 2025, I ask you, what will you do with your divine fire? As our flame spreads across the world, I urge you to remember the lessons we learned here today. Ideas can come from individual genius, but it takes collective courage to realize them. Your divine fire isn't just a flame you carry, it's a torch to pass. Keep lighting up rooms when you enter them. Build ramps for others to soar over obstacles. Create spaces where ideas can be discussed and where grass is greener than the circle in May. And when you're thinking to yourself, many years from now, whatever corner you find yourself in the world, remember this. We've spent our past 2, 3, 4, 5 years together in something close to paradise. And together we left it shining even brighter. So, the phenomenal forum of 2025, take our fire and set the cosmos aglow. Let's go change the world. Thank you.
What he did not tell you is that he played with the Boston Symphony. And he played piano, and I've never seen people as odd as they were. Imagine someone playing the violin going like this, listening to him. So, Max, thank you for your humility, and thank you for your wonderful remarks. What makes this place so green, so beautiful, so pristine are the men and women and the people of buildings and grounds. They are right there. I think they deserve our thanks. So addressing the leadership of this phenomenal forum, I'm going to ask those who were elected forum officers by their peers to stand, and we'll hold the applause until the end. In third forum, Diana Zhang and Sam Harrell. In fourth form, Charlotte West and Jaeyang Kang. Fifth form, Zoe Hardwick and Sahovan Modi. So, to the phenomenal form of 2025, you've left some buds growing here, and I'm sure when you come back, you'll see them flower and blossom because of your divine fire. So now, words about prizes. I'll start with the senior prefects. Kate Bartlett. The smile that never disappears. That's a trait that Kate is known and for which she'll be remembered by all those who cross paths with her. In the dead of winter or on gloomy days, coming across Kate reminds us that the sun is lurking behind every cloud. She shines light and brings warmth to all around her. Whether she's scoring a goal in soccer, or whatever she's doing, coming to get the binder for roll call, the smile is there. It's a reminder that at Groton, no matter what sport we play, we never lose. We either come in first or second, and that's okay. How can we lose with the ever-present, uplifting smile of Kate Leader Bartlett? Please come and get the Lally Prize. This Charles Lanier Prize is actually awarded to two members of the sixth form who have greatly served the school. Kate is one of them. The other one is Asante Kio. Asante Sana means thank you very much. Since second form, when their dorm head said he had a special crew in the dorm, all of us knew why. We owe a lot of gratitude, a lot of asantes to Asante. And to him, we say, as I said before, Asante Sana. For your leadership with Kate and other peers, Asante for being a captain in basketball, where you never really lost. You came in second quite a few times, and that's okay. There is a saying that a scholar and a gentleman, and I think this saying was made for leaders like you. You make it look so easy because you're so good at it. Come and receive your prize. Asma Gul Hassan, form of 1993's Circle Voice Journalism Prize, acknowledges outstanding leadership in creating, editing, and producing the school's newspaper. This prize is for two students, Ella Faranakian and Chloe Han. The Tronick Award is given in honor of Michael G. Tronick, and awarded to members of the sixth form who demonstrate a strong commitment to building the community of readers at the school. The two sixth formers are Margaret Caineb and Abby O'Neill. The Butler Prize for Excellence in English is given by Mrs. Gilbert Butler. This prize is for Sarah Agrawal. The Bishop Julius Atwood Literature and History Prize is given by the late Right Reverend Julius Atwood to the best scholar in the combined fields of history and literature. This prize is awarded to Ella Faranakian. The Perry History Prize is given by Mrs. Eliza Endicott Perry to the best scholar in the field of history. This year we have two scholars, Salim Hill and Liam Warren. The George Livingston Nichols Prize is for the best essay on a historical subject. This prize is awarded to Sarah Agrawal. The Rogers V. Scudder Classics Prize is given in memory of Roger Scudder, a distinguished teacher of classics at Groton, and a beloved member of this community. This prize goes to Trip White. The Endicott Peabody Memorial Prize is given in memory of the Reverend Endicott Peabody by the sixth form of 1945 for excellence in the field of religion and ethics. This prize is awarded to two students, Angus Frew and Anjanette Lynn. The Isaac Jackson Memorial Prize is awarded to the best mathematics scholar in the upper school. This year's scholar is Alicia Ye. The New England Science Teachers Award goes to a student who, through personal initiative, has done the most to promote awareness of science or technology. This award goes to Margaret Caineb. The Thorpe Science Prize is given by Mrs. Warren Thorpe to a member of the sixth form who has been the most successful in developing an appreciation of the spirit and meaning of science. This sixth former is William Laws. The World Language Prize is awarded to 3 students: Penelope Trigo for Spanish, Zach Baker for French, Kate Bartlett for Chinese. The Hudson Music Prize is given by the Friends of William Clark Hudson, form of 1956, to show the recognition of outstanding effort and progress in music during the school year. This award is presented to 3 students: Sarah Agarwal, Max Fan, and Alexander Newman. The Dennis Crowley Drama Prize is given by Todd C. Bottles, form of 2001, to a student who has made the greatest contribution to the theater program. The prize goes to 2 students, Naya Koloje and Sophie Zhu. The Anita Andres Rogerson Dance Prize goes to Chloe Han. The Photography Prize goes to Abby O'Neill. The Choir Cup, established in 1915, is awarded annually to a chorister who shows the greatest improvement in musical growth in sight, reading, and vocal technique. This year's chorister is Anders Kaspersen. The Upper School Shop Prize goes to Eliza Kingsland. The Reverend Frederick R. Kellogg Upper School Art Prize is given in his memory in recognition of distinguished work in art. This prize is awarded to Jake Murray. The Cornelia Emery Frothingham Athletic Prize is given by her parents and awarded to a member of the sixth form who has demonstrated all-around athletic ability and has shown exemplary qualities of leadership and sportsmanship. This prize goes to Maddie Cronin. The Reginald Fink Junior Medal is given by the sixth form of 1928 in memory of First Lieutenant Reginald Fink Jr. and is awarded to a member of the sixth form who has shown in athletics qualities of perseverance, courage, and unselfish sportsmanship. This year's medal goes to Salim Hill. The Elizabeth and Marjorie Peabody Award is given to a member of the sixth form, other than a school prefect, whose contributions to the community demonstrate sensitivity, strength of character, leadership, and integrity. This honor goes to Ella Feranakian. The William V. Larkin Form of 1972 Award is given to the Groton student who best exemplifies courage and perseverance in meeting a challenge or overcoming adversity. The recipient of this award is Jenny Polinis. The final award, the Carol and John King Hodges Prize, is given in memory of Carol Hodges, Form of 1905, and John King Hodges, Form of 1910, for her thoughtfulness and for bringing out the best in all those around her. I would like to honor Mary Cronin. It is now my pleasure to invite Nina Kapp, a member of the phenomenal form of 2025, up to the podium to introduce our next speaker, our guest speaker. Nina?
Good morning, esteemed members of the Board of Trustees, Headmaster Macabella, faculty, families, honored guests, and graduating form of 2025. It is my distinct honor to introduce this year's Prize Day keynote speaker, Dr. Douglas Brinkley. Dr. Brinkley is widely recognized as one of the most influential public historians of our time, with a distinguished focus on U.S. presidential history and environmental history. He holds the Catherine Sanoff Brown Chair in Humanities and Professor of History at Rice University, and serves as a presidential historian for the New York Historical Society, a trustee of the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library, and a contributing editor at Vanity Fair. The Chicago Tribune dubbed him America's new past master. 6 of his nonfiction books have been chosen as the New York Times Notable Book of the Year. He is also the recipient of such environmental leadership awards, including the Francis K. Hutchinson Medal, the Robin W. Winks Award for enhancing public understanding of national parks, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Lifetime Heritage Award. His book, The Great Deluge, Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast, received the Robert F. Kennedy Book Award. Among his many contributions to presidential scholarship are 2 landmark works on Franklin D. Roosevelt's rifle heritage and FDR in the creation of the United Nations. Beyond his scholarly endeavors, Dr. Brinkley has also made his mark in the world of music, earning 2 Grammy Awards as a producer for The Presidential Suite and Fandango at the Wall. His most recent book is Silent Spring Revolution, deals with the great environmental awakening from the presidential John F. Kennedy to President Richard Nixon. Dr. Brinkley lives in Austin, Texas, with his wife, Ann, and their 3 children, Benton, Johnny, and Cassidy. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, historian, author, professor, and my uncle, Dr. Douglas Brinkley.
Where's my prize? Congratulations, all of you, really. And I'm honored, and I mean that, to be here and asked to give some remarks that hopefully will be meaningful. As mentioned, I'm a presidential historian, and the day before I came here, I was at Walden Pond. If there's a book you need to read, if you haven't, make sure you do take on Henry David Thoreau's Walden, because it still has so much meaning in our lives now from so many different levels. But I was there in Concord in Lexington, where they're debating which town is more important in the American Revolution. So I'm glad to be here and away from that. But it is America at 250. In 2026, and already with Concord and Lexington, and a role played here in Groton. We are at that point, where we're trying to understand what is an American, what is our country all about, and what is proper leadership. I wanted to say before I mention the presidents, though, that there was an extraordinary transcendentalist philosopher with Henry David Thoreau and Louisa May Alcott and the Ralph Waldo Emerson and the whole Concord happening, awakening in literature, and that's Margaret Fuller. And when Margaret Fuller was 14 years old, she came here to study what was called, because women weren't at Groton, and it was a beehive of higher learning and boarding schools around us. And Margaret Fuller went to a place called Miss Susan Prescott's School for Young Ladies. It was like a seminary. And while she studied there, her father sent her there to learn home economic skills. But instead, she said no. Her mind was opened in all these new ways. And in particular, she said that but when she arrived here in the grounds of this community, she said that I suddenly, very early here, I knew the only objection in life is to grow. And it's the same as a tree, and the same as like an arboretum around. When you guys come back and you'll see the growth of a tree, you're all angels of pure future. We don't know where you're headed. We can name Nina, is going to University of Chicago. Some of you are going to, Scripps or Harvard or elsewhere, but we're all going to be, you now are tied at time forever. This is a time marking that you're all sharing of being here and being together. And she ended up writing about her whole experiences here in a book, and wrote, it started with a letter to essentially her headmaster, Susan Prescott. And in the letter, Margaret Fuller wrote, I feel the power of industry growing every day, and besides, the all-powerful motive of ambition, and a new stimulus lately given through a friend. I have learned that nothing, no, not perfection, is attainable. I am determined on distinction, which formerly I thought to win at an early age, but now I see that long years of labor must be given to secure even a vague kind of success that will be meaningful. And then she added to it, I see multitudes of examples of persons of genius, utterly deficient in grace and power of pleasurable excitement. I see geniuses, but they're utterly deficient in grace and the power of pleasurable excitement. And I want to combine both of those. And she went on, and if you haven't read Margaret Fuller, you should. And I wanted to mention her because when I talk about the leadership of presidents, they've all been men. And we haven't had, of course, a woman president yet. And I thought it's appropriate to mention Margaret Fuller. And when you read her, you'll realize she's one of the greatest writers America and the world's ever produced. When I said America's 250, you know, in 1776, when we all met in Philadelphia, the 13 colonies, there was a man there named Charles Thompson. He was the secretary of the Continental Congress. He had to bring everybody together, Jefferson's from Virginia and Adams, Massachusetts, etc., all to meet at Independence Hall. And they were debating, and can we create a new country, the United States? Fierce debates. And Charles Thompson was as secretary of the Continental Congress, kept all the notes. He kept all the bookkeeping, all the arguments, who's staying with the British Crown, who isn't, everything. And he was a lawyer. He was the biggest beer brewer in America, not Sam Adams. And he represented indigenous people's rights. He was opposed to slavery. He also was what we would call a proto-suffragist on women's rights, Charles Thompson. Incredible intellectual that you haven't heard of. But do you realize it's Charles Thompson who, once Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, it's Thompson who had to announce the Declaration to the world. It was like a press release. We just created a country. Charles Thompson had to concoct the Great Seal of the United States, where you have it's like a stencil kit, where you see the eagle, that was a big debate. Ben Franklin wanted the wild turkey. And we ended up getting the eagle. So if ever you see the symbol of the U.S., it's just being done in this kind of fashion. And because on the original July 4th, 1776 document, not the one that's signed, that comes later, the original announcement of our country, there are only two names on it, John Hancock and Charles Thompson, and they were both ordered to be hung at a tree as soon as they were captured by Britain. So they were wanted people, and it's Thompson who helped say to the rest of these founders, get here, let's have a meeting, everybody sign this, so we'll all be hung. And hence, when you go to Washington, D.C. and the National Archives and see the impressive signature under glass, that's that secondary announcement of our country with all the signatures on it. Thompson was like an archivist, or better put, he was our U.S. government during the Revolutionary War. He took the documents of our paper and moved from town to town to avoid apprehension by the British. And if you talk about who mattered, Thompson mattered to George Washington. He did not have the luxury of talking about Lockean Scottish philosophy, Enlightenment, anything, because Washington's troops needed provisions, blankets, medicines, foodstuffs to survive places like Valley Forge or the Hudson River campaign. And it's Charles Thompson who was the procurement officer who was able to deliver Washington enough provisions to soldier on and eventually achieve the stunning result of the Battle of Yorktown, where the United States defeated Britain and our country was firm. And at that moment, everybody in the country, in the 13 colonies, the new United States, there was only one person who could be president, George Washington. He knew everybody looked up to him. And it was because of what Margaret Fuller was getting at. That it was because of his countenance, his dignity, and he was tall. Some people thought Washington wasn't that smart, but they didn't say that to his face when he entered the room. He had an intimidating seniority due to what his skill set was, and that skill set was topography. The skill set was he knew where he was, not just in Virginia of today, not just in West Virginia of today, but Pennsylvania, and New York, and Connecticut, and Massachusetts. He had learned where the brooks were and the creeks were. He learned where the wild strawberries and wild apples grew. He knew where you could catch fish the easiest, and he knew how to get across and use waterways. It allowed him the advantage of being a guerrilla fighter to win our American Revolution. When we look at battles like Battle of Princeton or Trenton, it's British troops with German Hessian troops getting drunk on Christmas Eve and holidays and timing, and Washington's men would come in and they hit them with musket fire and then run, because they knew how to escape and get away. And Washington did not want to be president. There was no job description. It was Charles Thompson who went to Mount Vernon, his home, and said, "You've got to be it." And eventually Washington came to New York. And if you go into New York City, you can go to Federal Hall, and they have there the balcony where Washington was inaugurated, or part of a hunk of it, where Washington was inaugurated as first president. And then he didn't know what the job description was. He did not want to be a monarch. He didn't want to be an autocrat. He didn't want to be authoritarian. He wanted to be a president that didn't abuse presidential powers, and as it became constructed, was part of our development of our three-peer system of justice and legislature and presidential power. Washington, there is no, in the Constitution of the United States, there is no executive order prerogative. This has manifested itself lately. Washington signed one executive order for neutrality to keep the United States out of foreign wars. Particularly, we didn't want to get drug into fighting Spain or France and get into civil wars over there. So we were trying to have our harmony here in the United States, because we had a lot of growing to do to form a country. But Washington will be forever remembered, in what you can learn in leadership is when he knew when to get out. 2 terms, they pleaded for him to stay a 3rd term, and Washington said, "I did my job, no. I don't need to keep being, because if I stay in power too long, I'll seem like an autocrat." And so he stepped down. And then everybody started modeling themselves after Washington. And I told you that Charles Thompson kept all those diaries and notes to founding of our country. He went to Bryn Mawr to go publish a multiple-volume history of America from a founding straight from Independence Hall with all of the notes. And while he was working on it in 1800, he wrote Jefferson and John Jay that he burned all the founding diaries. Tragedy. And his rationale for burning them was, we weren't meant to build a 2-party system. That it wasn't supposed to be every 4 years Republicans, or back then the Federalists versus the Democrat Republicans, hammering at each other. And in 1800, it had Thomas Jefferson and John Adams ripping each other to shreds. And there was a fear of Thompson. If I show these journals, they'll show it'll be like gossip of what they each said and what it was like. And instead, if we're really doing an election every 4 years, we must make presidents leaders, make them strong, rally behind them. Hence the cult of George Washington you've all grown up with in the United States. Our capital is Washington, D.C. No building can be built taller than the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. It's Washington County or Washington State. It's Washington on your quarter or Washington on your dollar. It became a deliberate attempt to build him up as this patriarch, George Washington. And because of in other presidents have added to this sense of leadership. When we hunger for it, we go back and say, why don't we have the quality of this particular president? I think of Thomas Jefferson, who in his grave in Charlottesville, Virginia, does not have that he was president of the United States. He thought it was a lesser job than his founding of the University of Virginia and writing the Declaration of Independence. And Jefferson is worth all of the accolades that are distributed towards him because he had a westward expansion vision, and he believed that the Mississippi River is the spine of America, and that we had to be coast to coast from the Atlantic to the Pacific. And Jefferson's Louisiana Purchase, doubling the size of the United States, created the country that we are today. But I've read letters, historians read other people's mail for a living. And I read the letter Ursula Nunn wrote Jefferson. I am Catholic, I am French, you're a Protestant country, the United States by and large, I'm scared. And Jefferson in long pages wrote her, you are the quintessential American. You take care of orphans. You look after children with education. You demand sanitary conditions in New Orleans. And went on and on about the power of religious freedom in the United States. So when we look at a darker side of Jefferson, and as we do as scholars, and when we evoke slavery, you then see Jefferson writing about religious freedom in this extraordinary way. We have, and you all have, founding documents. And the founding documents are the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Federalist Papers we add in there. We could put the Northwest Ordinance, Lewis and Clark's journals perhaps. But we started getting a payday, really, of a second wave of founding documents during Abraham Lincoln's presidency. And Abraham Lincoln is now, and I think will forever be, the #1 ranked president in American history. Because no matter how bad any president has had it, Lincoln had it worse. And Lincoln came in 1860 from Springfield, Illinois to Washington. He had to have bodyguards to avoid assassination. When it was not called the White House doesn't get named till Theodore Roosevelt. It's the executive mansion that and it was secession afoot. Maryland wanting to break away over slavery, and Virginia. Do you guys realize today's you hear about the Battle of Bull Run that the Confederates won? That is where Dulles Airport is today. That close to Washington, and the Confederates won. And Lincoln's gave us these foundational documents that you have to keep in your civic files in order to understand the contours of our country. And that is his first inaugural, second inaugural, Gettysburg Address, and Emancipation Proclamation. And after the Civil War, not only were the end of slavery and the emancipation occurred, but Confederate and Union soldiers dropped their weapons and came marching home at the exact time the coffin of Abraham Lincoln moved in a train across America. People pay last respects, and he was buried there in Springfield, Illinois. Since Lincoln we call his Emancipation Proclamation Executive Order #1, but presidential power as you have it today while you're graduating really emanated from Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin Roosevelt in the 20th century. And TR who has been evoked in his family, did so much to help save America. We're talking about your great trail system, trees, grounds here. your experience here isn't just each other, and one can feel your fellowship with each other. It's kinetic. But it's also with the landscape here. And that feeling when you'll come back here time again, hopefully in your lives, that you'll be connected to this very special place. That's how Theodore Roosevelt thought and saved 234 million acres of wild America. And you are living in a city that's, in this area, it's 30% open space here. 30%. That is what Henry David Thoreau wrote about in his walking essay, to have township parks and green space. And that is what Theodore Roosevelt meant when they went to mine the Grand Canyon for zinc, asbestos, and copper. And Roosevelt stood at the Grand Canyon and said, "Do not touch it. God has made it. You will only mar it. Leave the Grand Canyon alone." And did an executive order for 1 million acres that goes through the court system and found that it's legal. And since then, this idea of protecting places and conserving has been a great American tradition. The only thing I will say, with just two other leaders that impressed me on my writings, you can't deal with American history, period, without Franklin D. Roosevelt. There's a spot here where Franklin, you know the lore of him here. You know about his love kinship with Eleanor. You've probably heard. But just imagine, I mean, you have to get a constitutional amendment to stop him. I mean, he wins in 1932 and 36 and 40 and 44. And the amazing thing was he changed when he developed polio. In 1921, he went to Bear Mountain State Park, and while at Bear Mountain, he went swimming with Boy Scouts, and they were playing horseshoes, etc. And he contracted the virus, and he went up to the Bay of Fundy in Canada, New Brunswick, and overnight he started getting the shivers, and he woke up in migraine and no feeling in the lower half of his body. When you had polio in the 1920s, you were considered a pariah, and nobody wanted to be near you. And his home on the Hudson, the great FDR, who you're so proud of here, nobody wanted to see him. Nobody would come because they thought you would get the polio from being within airspace. And so he was lonely. He went to Florida to try to heal in waters. He created a polio resort in Georgia. And by a chance, he got back in, and he trained not to give a speech. He trained to get in politics by learning to lean on a son and then sway his hips so he can go from the side to the microphone. And he did it in the 1920s at Madison Square Gardens. And that voice that said, from nothing to fear but fear itself. It's just lives in us, that saying, a moment of his inaugural. People recognize the voice and the power. And when he says there's nothing to fear it, fear itself, it's somebody who's having braces put on his legs every day. It's somebody who needs help to use facilities or go in and out of everywhere. And the thought is that he's telling us not to worry about things, that it'll be okay. Roosevelt and all of you should be optimistic. FDR said optimism in America is our oxygen. And, after FDR, he had a long shadow till 1980 until Ronald Reagan came in, and things have changed in different ways in our country. But when Reagan was shot in 1981, and his famous line, "I forgot to duck," and when he went into George Washington Hospital, and people didn't know whether Ronald Reagan would die or not, and suddenly, when he came back, the whole country suddenly was pulling for him, even though he was because he was conservative, only had a limited box office. But suddenly Americans pulled for him because, again, like FDR, overcoming setback and overcoming circumstance. The last president I wrote a book on, it was Jimmy Carter, who died this year. President Carter's whole thing when he ran for president in 1976 was character matters and I will never tell a lie. Well, what do you mean you'll never tell a lie? And he was trying to say in 76, Jimmy Carter, I'm not part of Washington. I didn't lie about I didn't cover up the Kennedy assassination. I didn't lie to you like Kissinger or McNamara on Vietnam. I'm just a one-term Georgia governor. Don't blame me for all those problems, and I'll never lie to you like Nixon did in Watergate. Pretty good, you can see why you'd run on that. But a reporter started wanting to bust Jimmy Carter because he was saying, I've never told a lie. And all of you here, do you know people have never told a lie? Does that sound sanctimonious, or does that exist? And a reporter came to bust, and when the reporter came to Plains, Georgia, where he lived, the reporter said to Jimmy Carter, do you, Mr. President, he came to see Lillian Carter, who was Jimmy Carter's mother, and said, do you ever tell a lie? Has your son, Jimmy, ever told a lie? And Ms. Lillian said, oh, well, Jimmy tells white lies all the time. And the reporter said, well, that's a lie. And they said, no, it's a white lie. And then he said, well, what's the difference, Ms. Lillian? What's between a lie and a white lie? And Ms. Lillian said, remember when you arrived here and I said it was nice to see you and how good you looked? That's a white lie. So, so we all will tell white lies. We're all not perfect, and nobody in our founding club of presidents will stand up under the inspection. Not everybody's a sustainable hero. But I'll end by telling you, you're graduating from the finest prep school in America that has a lineage like none other, and that I really want to thank the headmaster for thank you. You have an incredible headmaster, and we really. And in all I will say about that is, stay in touch. Make this a place for the rest of your life. It's tearful in some ways today and exultant in others. Love your family, bask in family today. They've been on this journey with you, but always realize that the school, your academy, your place of learning is always in your life. You'll have other chapters in your biography, but this, as of now, is a complete chapter, but it doesn't mean that it's left the index in your life. It's going to be alive and relevant in ways you can't even perceive, because you learn the right way to be as an intellectual, but also as a person. And it's an honor and congratulations to all of you. And Nina, thank you and Ed and Anne Marie, her parents, thank you for having me here.
Well. If that does not make you fall in love with this school anew, I don't know what else will. So thank you, Prof. This is it. Is this it? Let's do this. This it is. I'm not usually without words, but I'm a bit emotional, but we'll get through this. Sarah West, we're going to ask the students to come up. As if you've not done this before, I don't think you have. We're going to ask you to come up, get your diploma from the president. and shake my hand, whatever you want to do. So we'll start with Sarah West Agarwal, summa cum laude. Tianu Judah Akinjayeju. Zachary Ryan Baker, summa cum laude. Catherine Moya Bartlett, magna cum laude. Annabelle Michaela Bernard, cum laude. Christine Hofling Billings, cum laude. Macon Archer Burgess, magna cum laude. Amelia Elizabeth Burnett, magna cum laude. Anders Danielle Morris Kaspersin, magna cum laude. John Patrick Charpentier, magna cum laude. Cameron Paul Siro. Caroline Vanel Chrissy, summa cum laude. Madison Ray Cronin, magna cum laude. Sorry about that. Gabriela Moreira da Silva, magna cum laude. Sagata Das, magna cum laude. John Wesley Davis V, cum laude. Lauren Natalie Dubois, magna cum laude. Anna Francisca Dagen, magna cum laude. Jacques Philippe D. James Reed Ebert, magna cum laude. Max Zimo Fan, summa cum laude. Ella Grace Faranakian, summa cum laude. Henry Beecher Foster, cum laude. Angus Sterling Frew, summa cum laude. Hannah Louise Gully, summa cum laude. Gabriella Beatrice Gills, magna cum laude. Varun Gite, summa cum laude. Devon Riz Gura, summa cum laude. Lola Valentina Gutierrez Huang, magna cum laude. Chloe Sehe Han, cum laude. Raymond James Thomas Hildreth, cum laude. Salim Abdel Ali Hill, magna cum laude. Christopher Forsyth Howard, cum laude. Hazel Elaine Hughes, cum laude. Charlotte Phillips Jones, magna cum laude. Margaret Lauren Canep, cum laude. Nina Francis Karp, magna cum laude. Armand Kana, magna cum laude. Asante Austin Kiyo, summa cum laude. Bo Taylor Kimler, magna cum laude. Eliza Abigail Kingsland, magna cum laude. Satoshi William Clegg, summa cum laude. Naya Annabelle Coloches, cum laude. Julia Bruce Landau, summa cum laude. William Grayson Handy Laws, summa cum laude. Brenda Lee, summa cum laude. Carter Charles Lightburn, magna cum laude. And Jeanette Lynn, summa cum laude. Sichang Ma. Clara and Maturo, summa cum laude. Grace Mallory McAndrews, summa cum laude. Angus Fitzgerald Miller, summa cum laude. Maria Alejandra Montero. Kylie Genevieve Murphy, cum laude. Jake Thomas Murray, cum laude. Genevieve Dawes Nelson, magna cum laude. Alexander Edwards Newman, summa cum laude. Abigail Ruth O'Neill, cum laude. Daniel Saul Palmer, summa cum laude. Jennifer Renee Polines, cum laude. Victoria Rees, cum laude. Matthew Nam Scheibel, magna cum laude. Kiran Kung Su Shen, magna cum laude. Matthew Jab Senelius, magna cum laude. Danielle Mary Sheehan, cum laude. Dilsafar Singh, summa cum laude. Timothy Matthew Smith, summa cum laude. Henry Harris Spence, summa cum laude. Natalie Jianing San, magna cum laude. Penelope Constance Trego, summa cum laude. Clark Trevino, summa cum laude. Daniel Velasquez. Liam Andrew Warren, summa cum laude. William Needles White III, summa cum laude. Edward Sigismund Damilola Wilkie, magna cum laude. Davion Malachi Williams, cum laude. Lucas Wu, summa cum laude. Caillou Yang, summa cum laude. Alicia X. Ye, summa cum laude. Ziwei Zhang, summa cum laude. Audrey Zhang, summa cum laude. Lindy Wu Zhang, summa cum laude. Yuhan Zhu, magna cum laude. You're welcome. This concludes the formal presentation of diplomas to the phenomenal form of 2025. There will be lunch in the adjoining tent, and handshaking will begin promptly at 1:30 p.m. Now, phenomenal form, I implore you to seek positivity, or as we say in chemistry, go and become nucleophiles. The world needs you to do the greater good. Humanity needs you. Hamba Kahle is a phrase in isiZulu. The rector and headmasters before the sixth headmaster, Bill Polk, all said, sixth form may go. That was changed by Mr. Polk. Now we say, go well.
Groton.